What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Crew 2, and well, as y'all know, it is Wednesday, which means the new summit is now live, and for this week we have the Dominion Rivals Stage 1. So for this summit, it's obviously going to be completely off-road, so I would say a lot of players would probably like this one. At least besides the motocross events, I would say a lot of people are most likely going to be tired of those, which honestly, I really cannot blame you. But before we jump into that, let's take a look at all the rewards and the upcoming summits as well. So for this one, we have the Crimson Gold Rooftop and Platinum, which depending on what vehicle you might want to put that on, I do think that rooftop might actually look pretty cool. Then in gold, we're going to have the Ford F-150 Raptor race truck, which if you guys already have this vehicle, you will luckily get the money back for that, which is always a nice plus there. And then in silver, we have the legendary half set boosted for the hypercar class, which honestly I'm looking forward to getting more scorebreaker sets with these other classes to really see what they can do against that crazy rally raid set. But moving over to the first summit, aka the one next week, is going to be the Scandinavia Flick. So taking a quick glance at the summit next week, it does look like we're going to have two of the new ice tracks in there again, which I personally do find these to be pretty fun, but getting used to the vehicles in them can be a bit of a challenge. It also looks like the hypercar event is going to have a forced vehicle, so that event's definitely going to be something to watch there. But moving over to the rewards here, in Platinum we have the Nitro Chemist boosted for the drag class, which honestly guys, those affixed stats on that set really do not look all that good unless you are playing with somebody there. I personally recommend getting this set and changing that to like Extra Pump and Pure if you are trying to do the escapes, and then if you're focusing on the drag events, go after Pure and Frenetic. I feel like that's going to be the best thing to do, but always going after another Nitro Chemist set may not be a bad thing. And then in gold, we're going to have the Blizzard Smoke, which is going to be pretty cool looking. It's also going to be an epic item, which is kind of weird to see in a gold reward there, because normally that's a platinum, but I guess we really cannot complain. Hopefully that's actually a cool looking smoke. And then moving over to the next summit is going to be the Dominion Rivals Stage 2, which has the Chrysler 300 SRT8 Crown Edition. I have to admit though, I do like the color of this thing with those rims and all that. I do think it looks pretty cool. And if I had to guess, we can most likely drive this car in the summit to test it out. Now do let me know in the comments below, guys, what hypercar you'd like to see in the summit next. I'm sure many players are probably waiting for that. For one, I'd say we're probably going to get one soon because it's definitely been a minute. And then in gold, we have the yellow side blade underglow, which looks pretty interesting if I do say so myself. And then moving over to silver, we have the legendary half set boosted for the street class, which having pure on a loot digger set is probably something you don't really want. But then again, you can luckily change the affixed stats on these if you would like to. And then moving over to the next summit is going to be the Frozen Sin, which has one of my favorite hypercars on the cover. But in platinum, we have the blue Tetra underglow, which I do think that one might look pretty awesome. Then obviously in gold we have the second part of the legendary half set boosted for the street class, which obviously changing those affixed stats as I mentioned before might be a good idea. And then finally in silver you're going to get yourself some parts for the KTM Expo GTX, which I would say would be pretty helpful considering the parts on the hypercars can get kind of expensive pretty fast. And now moving over to this week's summit, we're going to be fully off-road this time around, which I'm not going to lie is pretty awesome considering Dakar Desert Rally is coming up pretty fast here. But nonetheless, guys, the first event is going to be a slalom, and for this, I did end up running a hypercar once again. I'm really not sure why, but I do find this to be pretty entertaining, and having that new hypercar scorebreaker set might be pretty awesome as well to test out. But then again, obviously a rally raid set is going to be better because, well, you're obviously off-road. The hypercar really isn't made for that. But even with a regular scorebreaker set, I'm only 700 points away from my friends there, so if you guys do want to try out other classes, at least we definitely have the option to do that. Then moving over to the next event, aka another skill, is going to be an escape, and for this one, I did end up running the Regera, and I do think this one might be kind of annoying for a lot of players. The main reason why I say this though is the fact that many of the off-road escapes normally require some type of hypercar, which if you really think about it does not make any sense whatsoever, but I do recommend trying out the Regera on this one even though I'd say any hypercar could probably do a great job. But the biggest thing about this escape, guys, is to watch out for the trees. My goodness, they really do attack you a lot. And it's kind of hard to dodge them depending on the route you actually take, so do be a little careful on that. But once you get on the road, pretty much go as fast as you possibly can, and basically hope for the best that no cars spawn in front of you afterwards. Then moving over to the next skill is going to be at low altitude, which luckily these are pretty straightforward. For this one, I basically just spawned in and went straight and followed the road all the way until I pretty much couldn't go anymore. I also crashed a couple times the first run I actually did this and still got 156,000. And then moving over to the first event in the summit is going to be a motocross race, and for this one it's going to be the Wolf Territory. So obviously guys, I did end up running the KTM 450 EXC. Now if you guys might have been wondering, the best overall bike in the motocross class is going to be the 450 EXC. Unless you have the Nighthawk edition from that motor pass a long time ago, that bike is incredible, but I would say this one's going to do just fine. And on this one, you basically race down a mountain and then do a nice little tour of a city in like an urban race type of feel. But I do have to admit though, this race was pretty fun to do, and I do recommend taking some of the jumps, by the way, because it's going to help tremendously with cutting around some annoying areas. But besides that, let's move over to the next event, which is going to be a Rallycross event. So for this one, I did actually end up running the Ford Fiesta, which might not be the greatest vehicle for this because of the way it slides. But then again, I also think the Fiesta is a really good vehicle, and I do highly recommend trying out this car if you guys have not. The biggest thing about this event is trying to approach the turns correctly and making sure you get around them as fast as you can, and also watching out for the crazy racers that might actually get in your way. The next Rallycross event, you actually have to use the Fiesta, and for this is going to be the Temecula Wineries, which I would say this race is probably one of those events that have probably showed up in many of the other ones as well, and the Ford Fiesta did a really good job on this. It's definitely going to be one of the better rally cars in the game without a doubt in my mind, but moving over to the next event is going to be a Rally Raid race, and you do have to drive the Porsche 959 Raid. Personally guys, I'm not a huge fan of this vehicle. I could definitely see why a lot of players don't like using it, but then again, it's definitely not going to be the worst Rally Raid vehicle in the game, but definitely not the best. So for this one, the biggest thing is basically being careful, but also High Speed Drifter is one of my favorite events in the entire game, and luckily with this one, it's going to be pretty easy to do. The biggest thing is watching out with your nitrous and keeping your speed up. I did notice you can probably run out of nitrous with the 959 pretty easily, so do keep an eye out for that. And then moving over to the next Rally Raid event, I did decide to actually run the Ram 1500 Rebel, which might not be the best truck to use on this one, but I also think it's not going to be the worst. The Ram's actually a really good Rally Raid vehicle. I personally don't see a lot of people running this thing. I would say everyone's probably going to use the Ford F-150 Enforcer unit, because, well, that truck is honestly that incredible. But I do recommend trying out the Ram 1500 if you guys have not. And also, one big tip here, I do recommend being careful on the route you take in this Rally Raid event, because I noticed going one specific way might end up being a lot slower than the other, so definitely be careful with that. And now moving over to the final event in the summit here, you guys will have to use a motocross bike in a Rally Raid event. So for this, I did end up picking the KTM 450 EXC once again, but the biggest thing about this event, guys, is the fact that the bike is obviously not going to be fast enough to really get up to speed on this. It only does like 105 miles an hour or so on flat ground, and you can kind of fly through your nitrous, so do be a little careful on that, and I don't think slipstreaming on this one's really going to make a difference. But that will basically do it for this summit. I personally did have a really good time with this one. I do like the off-road events. Let me know if you guys have any questions at all in the comments below. Let's jump right into this.